Welcome back to the Lakers Fast Break. My name is Yamie Swoot. We're here with the Lakers Weekend Edition video blog podcast type thing with my good friend Laker Tom. Tom, how you doing today?
Pretty good, Jamie. How you doing?
Gonna make it. Not too excited about the rest of the NBA Finals, but we'll get through it in other ways. Today we're going to talk about a couple of things specific to the Lakers. Won't get too much into the rest of the NBA. We're going to start today off by kind of going over some of the basic groundworks. The full document hasn't been released yet of the CBA that was signed about a month and a half ago, a couple months ago, I guess now. And so until that specific terminology comes out, we won't know 100% what we're getting into come July 1st. One of the things, as we move forward in this, and it's a whole new way of doing business for the NBA, there's a lot of new wrinkles that are going to start to manifest over time. But the things that are going to be the most important for Lakers and their fans to understand with this new CBA, collective bargaining agreement, is that there is a point at which point it becomes very difficult to build a team around free agency. Drafting is a different matter. Drafting and keeping your own players is a different matter. But building a team like the Lakers tend to do through free agency gets very difficult once you go over a certain point of money. We don't really even know exactly what that point of money is, although we can pretty much guess that it's going to be 179 mil, 180 mil, somewhere in there, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But at roughly 179 mil, you can say that the Lakers will probably go about as close to that line as they feel comfortable, and not a penny above it. So if you'd like to debate Laker trades, there's only one place to go, and that is Lakerholics.com. Tom puts trades up all the time, sometimes to the chagrin of many of our many of our fellow bloggers, because it's pretty consistent. I'll say it's pretty consistent, and some of them I agree with in terms of the player is a great fit. And some of them I disagree with in terms of the player being a great fit. Some of them I agree the player is a great fit, but don't see a snowball's chance in hell of the other team agreeing to the terms of that trade. For 2 years straight, I said the Lakers aren't going to make any trades in the season, and they did, because I just thought that they were content. I thought that Rob was a GM, or I do believe that Rob is a GM that values, I thought he was, a GM that values continuity and chemistry. But that was until he blew up the team to get Russell Westbrook. And then subsequently couldn't convince management to pay for the players to support that superstar structure and building a team that costs as much as the Warriors have traditionally the luxury tax penalties that the Warriors accrue, the luxury tax penalties that the Nets and the Clippers were accruing for a few years, but I think we'll see them drop out of that race this summer, and so on and so forth. But as we've seen, and this is kind of just to lay the groundwork for our overall discussions here going forward, Tom and I are going to try to do one of these a week where we talk about a specific trade, how it relates to the CBA going forward. For those of you who aren't aware, the CBA goes into effect July 1st, 2023. So July 1st is when the new CBA comes into effect, which means for the purposes of calculating BRI, basketball-related income, it's going to be based off the old CBA. So all the new things that we've seen about revenue sharing with the players being able to buy into franchises, players being able to get endorsements from gambling or cannabis industry related endeavors, those will all more factor into next summer. We won't really see that have an effect on the contracts of the basketball-related income calculations for this summer's crop of free agency. What you will see go into effect is the tax apron and the luxury tax apron, which is the real new aspect of this that people are I think both a little bit confused about, because technically it's not a hard cap ceiling. You can go over that apron. It just comes with a heck of a wallop of a punch to your ability.
It's really a de facto hard cap because
we'll get.
They don't allow you to use the MLE at all.
Sure.
You can't take more money back in trades than you send out.
Nope.
You can't get players out of the buyout market.
Nope.
You can't send really onerous that you basically are going to see it as a real hard cap.
Agreed. And you can't send a little bit more money out to make a trade come up to the minimum threshold to make it happen. You can't. I think you used to be able to send up to $5 million out, or was it a percentage of the trade?
Well, there were several major deals that were done at the end of this year that will not be able to be done in the future.
Oh,
just for that same situation.
Right, like a lot of the trades that we've seen happen in the past would not have been able to happen. Harden would still be in Houston.
Yeah, so this was definitely a revolution of the rest of the league against the Clippers and the Nets and the Warriors. I mean, they were doing moves that would say to add a $10 million player, they'd pay $50 million in taxes.
Sure, I mean, I agree with you to a point.
Justify that in any sense other than, hey, we raised the value of the Golden State Warriors from like $3 million to $10 billion.
So what I think is that's true. But so what I think 3 things we're going to see happening. One is what we were talking about, teams that don't want to spend a lot of money, like the Lakers, even though they
have a lot of revenue.
even though they're the most popular franchise on planet Earth and have a lot of revenue and are playing in the largest market on planet Earth, they're still a little bit hesitant about spending money. And this is something I still fail to be able to wrap my head around. But it's not for me to wrap my head around. As I like to say on the blog, it's not my money. I don't like to play with other people's money. I'm not going to tell Tom what to do with his money. I would expect he won't tell me to do it with my money. So on and so forth.
I don't have the same problem at all, Jamie.
I know you don't. I know. But that's
to spend the Lakers' money or
Tom's like
else's
this.
money.
Jeannie, how you doing? How you doing, Jeannie?
That's right. I want to see Jeannie Bus on TikTok at
Shotgun Willis's.
Shotgun Willis.
Shotgun Willie. There's a play called Shotgun Willis. Anyway, all right. So that's CBA 101, tax apron 179. Can you let's hear your thoughts on the CBA and the.
Well, I think that there's really 2 numbers now that jump out at everybody, and they are the tax aprons. And the tax apron basically is when those are numbers that you can't go over or something happens. Okay? So the first one is 169 million. That's the total salary number that if you're hard capped, you cannot go over. That means you can't sign a player, you can't trade for a player, or do anything to go over that. Period.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a lot of people wanting to be hard capped because there are new advantages. The MLE for a non-taxpayer is 12.2 million. And they reduced the taxpayer MLE, which used to be like 10 million. They dropped that sucker down to 5 million.
Yep.
You also get the BAE, which is BAE, the biannual exception, which is 4.4 million.
Yep.
So you get 16.6 million to sign, and you can bring in free agents because you can do sign and trades. You can receive players in sign and trades.
And you can participate in the buyout market. So all of a sudden, the new CBA has made it more favorable for a team to hard cap. And we're going to see a whole bunch of teams hard cap for that reason. And there are several triggers that create a hard cap situation. Yeah. There's, if you bring back a player,
three big ones.
The biggest one that the Lakers are going to have to deal with is if everybody's going to be like, oh, we should sign and trade D'Angelo Russell. We should sign and trade D'Angelo Russell. We should try to, and that may well happen.
Fine. That part of it is fine.
Exactly. That's
what you get back for him that is the difficult part.
So if you sign and trade D'Lo for a player under contract, for example, it wouldn't be this, but Giannis, right? If you sign and trade D'Lo and whatever it takes to get Giannis,
no problema.
Which will never happen. But because you're bringing back a player under contract, you can still go over the salary cap. I think up to the contract.
Send out guys in sign and trades with no
penalty. The money will, if it goes over the cap, you're not penalized.
Right.
If you come up to that 179, which we'll get to in a second, that's different. But you can go over that 162. You can go over that 162 if you bring back a player under contract. Now let's switch to another Milwaukee Buck, Chris Middleton, who's an unrestricted free agent. If you sign and trade for Chris Middleton and you sign him to a new deal, you are instantly hard capped. Not only can his new deal not go over the 162, but
including that trade you just made can't go over.
Including that trade, right? No, everything that you bring back in that moment has to stop at 162 or lower. And
169. 169.
Thank you, Tom.
It's $7 million between the tax line and the apron.
That's right. So the tax line is 162. The first apron is
168,998.
Yeah, let's just call it 169. It rolls off the tongue far better than 168,999,999.
And there's a couple of things about $169 million payroll. The Lakers actually could, if they wanted to bring everybody back, they could end up with the entire roster. They could bring everybody back through Lonnie Walker. 9 players back, plus their 2 draft picks. That's an 11-player roster, meaning only 3 minimum salary players. And they can fit all of that underneath there if they can get Rui back for 15. And if Dennis was willing to sign for 12, and if Walker would sign for the BAA of 4, which is what has just been announced as what is expected for him. So you could bring back all of those players. You can still build a good team. The problem is the minute you put a Kyrie Irving in there at $40 million or something like that, then all of a sudden you start losing players.
Oh yeah,
you can't use the MLE because you'd go over the cap.
Nope, can't use the you can't use the BAE. You can't use the biennial.
Still possible.
You still can't, and then you also can't use the BAE because you're over the cap. So I think that you're right. So on last night's podcast, Zangerstein, popular Laker chatter, might be in the chat right now. I'm not looking at the chat, so if I mention you and you've already said something, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I can't see it because I'm the host tonight. This is my first time hosting, so I can only handle so much, people. All right, I can only handle so much. Got my Mike Dillon shirt on. Got my coffee. That's what I can handle right now. I think that Zangerstein brought up the point. I was going to bring it up, but she posted it first, which I thought was perfect. I would not be surprised if the Lakers did just that. If you saw the Lakers bring back Bamba, Beasley, the whole crew that we traded for, if only because all of those are pretty tradable contracts later in the season. You could get to December, January, and see, late January, early February, which is about when we traded for Rui Hachimura. I could see the Lakers pushing this team as is. D'Lo, Reeves, if we can keep him, he's the biggest question mark, obviously. Rui, which I think will go pretty high to keep him, and I don't expect the market for him to be as hot as it will be for Reeves. I would actually flip Lonnie and Schroeder. I think Lonnie's still got upside, and you could maybe split up that 12 million MLE and give Lonnie like the higher end of what he's expected to get, 7 or 8, and then use
they'd have to be signing trades because they're both free agents.
No. I'm saying if we keep all these guys.
You're saying doing it.
I'm saying we keep.
I think that there's. It presents a challenge, and the challenge it presents is that if you go that route, you're going the route where you're going to be a taxpayer, which means now it's not 169, it's 179.
Not necessarily.
You got to be under that 179 because you're not going to go over it.
No,
but you have until the last day of the year to get under that 179.
Well, no, you have the last day.
Because it's not.
It's the last day of free agency.
It's the last day of free agency.
So it's going to be sometime in February. We don't know.
Well, wait a minute. Let's back up a second. If you have, as you go through the year, you've got a payroll. And so if you are over the 179, do all of those draconian penalties immediately go into effect?
No, they don't go into effect until next summer, I believe.
Until the next summer?
Because your salary isn't confirmed. Your full season salary isn't confirmed until you've paid the full season salary. Does that jive? So come February, you're only like 2/3 of the way through the season.
I'm not sure about that, Jamie, because, for example, the 169 million hard cap, that takes in effect when you make if you sign somebody, or if you made a sign and trade, if the trade deadline, it goes immediately into effect.
Sure.
So it's possible. That's something we'll have to look up.
I'm pretty sure it all applies. I think you're right. Like what? Because the first cap.
Everybody has a cap number as they're going along, and it can change during the year, and your status can change during the year.
Correct. I think it depends on, and this is what I mean about the CBA isn't actually out yet, and some of this minutia may be more fully and clearly explained in it. Right. But the gist of what I've read,
so full of minutia.
And for those of you who are into the minutia, go to Larry Coon's CBAFAQ.com. Larry Coon's website is the only place anybody should go to get any information unless it's an article that references that and like simplifies it into like a chunk of.
He's the godfather of the
he
CBA.
Is he does the work. He puts in the work and the time. So shout out to Larry Kuhn, because a lot of us base what we do off of his hard work. And so everybody should always be giving shout outs to Larry Kuhn every time they talk about the CBA or money in the NBA, which is pretty much every podcast, every sports blogger does about the NBA half the time. It's a huge factor of what we talk about, especially in the summer when we get into the dog days of waiting for the season to come back around again. Go to Larry Kuhn, CBAFAQ.com. It's still not updated. This is what I'm getting at. Like, there's a lot of information that we're just kind of waiting to hear on. But from what I understand, what you're saying is partially true. That soft cap, that first tax threshold, once you pass that, you are now, quote unquote, a taxpayer. But again, I don't think it's certified that that's the case until you are a certified.
Well, it goes to the language of the clause. Is it a penalty for being a taxpayer? Then it's something that has to be decided at the end of the year.
At the end of the season.
If it's something that's related to your current tax level, where your salary cap is, then it's probably minute to minute.
Then it kicks in as soon as you hit it. Correct. That's what I'm trying. That's what I don't know yet, and I don't.
At any rate, so sort of the summary. What I think what we've come to the conclusion of is that the new CBA is going to level the playing field. It's going to compress the range of salaries that teams are spending. It's probably going to create two groups. One group that's hard capped, and the Lakers could well be part of that group, and a second group that's just hovering right below the $189 million de facto new hard cap, which is the second luxury tax apron. So the Lakers have good options, because if they can, number one, they can decide to go up to the $179 million thing and just start bringing back people and use their $5 million MLE and make a trade, sign, guarantee Bamba's number and take the player option or the team option that they have on Beasley, get those guys in and trade them off for Miles Turner or for OG Anunoby or any of these players that could really make a difference to the team. Or they can decide to go hard capped and still bring back most of the team. They could decide we're going to go hard cap, but we don't want to spend that money on Schroeder and Walker, the 12 and 4. They could spend it on Brooke Lopez and Naz Reid maybe, or something like that.
Sure.
Or alternatively, they could say we're going to give up Schroeder and those people, and we're going to go all out, and we're going to get Kyrie, and we can still keep Reeves and Rui Hachimura and Vanderbilt. So let's go that route.
I mean, I think a lot of those are kind of dream pie in the sky scenarios and would require more draft assets than the current Lakers.
Of course you do, Jamie, but that's where you and I have always had our differences of what's going to happen.
I mean, it's true. We don't have a lot of draft assets, and the ones that we have, and this is where I'm going to refer one of our longtime bloggers, Mr. Mongo Slade. I agree with Mongo. I think that the Lakers need to start putting a toe in two different pools of water. One is, yes, we're trying to win now. Going to try to build a roster around LeBron and AD to be as competitive as humanly possible in this moment. But that time is soon coming to an end.
2 years from now.
And what is the highest draft pick we're likely to have within the next 2 years? It's probably the one we're picking this season.
Right. It's the highest one we've had since 2007.
The highest one we've had in several years. And it would have been even higher had it not been for the New Orleans trade. We would have been drafted at 14 had it not been for the New Orleans trade. Next season's pick goes to New Orleans. Then that trade is finally done. Finally. After that, I think we have our pick, and then it's 2025. No, I think there's another pick swap going to New Orleans actually after that. And then it's done. I'll have to go back and look at that. But we're almost done with the New Orleans trade for AD 5 years later, which we knew was going to happen. So speaking of trades.
And one championship later.
And one championship later.
You have to say it's worth it.
It is worth it. It is worth it. No matter how unreplicatable that championship may be in terms of the rest and non-travel, it's still legit. And the Lakers were the ones who went out and got it. Could have been any number of teams, including Denver. They didn't put it together. We did. Booyah. Anyway, so speaking of trades, one of the trade we're going to focus on a Laker Tom trade. per episode. And the one that he put out most recently is for Brooke Lopez, but we're going to go back a little further for this one for Miles Turner. And we can, I don't know that we're going to read through the whole thing, but here it is on Lakerholics.com. If you come here, go ahead and just come to if you come to Lakerholics.com, Tom and I post here and banter each other. It's a living or breathing conversation that's been going on for 20 plus years since the LA Times Laker blog. Should any of you remember that hashtag, shout out to the Kamenetsky brothers, Mark Medina, both of them did a great job in carrying that LA Times Laker blog to the point that the LA Times just didn't want to host it anymore, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of, because it wasn't like it wasn't getting attention. It was
massive attention.
It was massive attention up until they just shut it down. It was like, okay, well, fine. But anyway, the gist of Tom's article here. I got to switch over to this window. We can go down, and if I can zoom in even a little more, let me see if I can zoom in a little more. I can do this, I think. So if we could see here, this is the gist of Tom's trade. One player for two plus our 2019. I have a hard time personally seeing Indiana make this trade, at least before the season starts. I could definitely see this trade happening around the trade deadline. If we still have Bamba and Beasley and our 29 pick at that time.
And that's a good, and that's a good point you made, Jamie, because if they can't find what they want in this offseason, that is the reason why you want to hold on to those trading chips going into this year.
It's way better than last season, where we had contract.
We had nothing.
We had no module. You could not modulate the trade, right?
And there were some opportunities like the Clippers took advantage of that we just didn't have pieces to take advantage of. That would have been big difference makers for us.
And then later in this article, you talk about I think would you call this your top goal in the draft, or are you waiting like I am for Stone Hansen to say something?
No, I really think that if there's a player that I'm hoping will go through the draft and pop up for us at 17, it's Derek Lively II from Duke. I think that he's a terrific defensive player, and he would immediately be our backup rim protector when AD is off the floor.
Yeah.
But he also has an engine, and he has an offensive ability as well as a stretch ability that he really displayed. He made 13 straight threes at Clutch Sports Day, and so he's the guy that he's going to start off on the bench, just basically being the backup center. But he's got starter potential down the road.
Yeah, I would have said the same thing about Jay Huff, but we just let him walk. And
you know what the thing with Huff is, because I've researched that whole thing, and the only feedback that I keep getting back is that they think he's too slow and doesn't react fast enough to really do what he's doing in the G League in the regular league. And it's funny because he has stretch abilities. He definitely has a nice shot. And he looks pretty good around the rim, but he's not a super athlete. He's not one of these, he's not a bruiser, for one thing, too. So I don't know. Part of it always is it's hard with big men when they don't get a lot of, even looking at Lively at Duke. I mean, it was obvious that Krzyzewski told him, your job is, rebound and block shots, and don't do anything else. Don't go taking any wild shots.
I'm not going to lie. I think Mike Krzyzewski's onto something there. That is what you said. I should be doing 98.9% of the time.
Well, for a young kid, it's far better than having him start off doing that than having him firing away from 3-point land and not understanding what the role of a big guy is. I mean, it's great if the big guy can shoot, but the big guy better be able to play defense first, or he ain't even going to make the court.
That's the problem. Yeah. So towards the end of this article, just as an example of sort of the work that Tom puts into these articles at Lakerholics.com, and you can also catch us. I forget what your Twitter is. It just LakerTom at Twitter. Yada 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 yada. LakerTom has this article specifically has gotten like 100. It's gotten a tremendous amount of views.
And
not
150,000 hits.
Yeah, 150,000, which, this is just, us just pontificating and imagineering and having fun with trades. Some people get a little annoyed at fantasy trades. I will admit I'm one of them. I'm like, I don't even know why we're talking about this because there's no possible way it would happen. And I would like to add that for all the flack I got for people saying like, well, the Lakers did make a trade. Nobody saw the trade nobody called the trade that we made for Russ remotely, not even close. So that's the main thing, is that we're not going to see, D'Lo for Kyrie, because Kyrie's going to ask for too much money. It's just not going to happen. And on top of that, you would be barely able to fill out the roster around them with nobody who wants to AD can't defend 5 guys. He can defend 2, and that's asking a lot of the man.
I don't know, Jamie. I go back and forth on this.
No, you shouldn't.
Sometimes even in the same day, I go back and forth.
Just say no to Kyrie.
No, listen.
Just say no to Kyrie.
Generally, I say no to Kyrie because of Kyrie. But the other side of it is that, man, when you watch the guy play and you think of what the Lakers are missing, we don't have a superstar guard in a league that is dominated by guards. And the truth of the matter is that you can put together a team with a starting lineup of Kyrie Irving, Austin Reeves, LeBron James, Rui Hachimura, Anthony Davis. And you can have a bench that is Christie, Vanderbilt, and let's say 2 guys that you drafted. Let's say you could get Lively and you could get
Livingston.
Well, Livingston, I'm sure you can get. They're both clutch players. I mean, that's part of why. I mean, I understand the relationship, and and believe me,
that's a whole other thing.
If a team that's number 16 wants to have a one-on-one with Lively, good luck. If he's still, I mean, there's things that, every year we sign 2 or 3 people or draft 2 or 3 people from clutch. It happens every time, and it's going to continue to happen. But if you've got a 7-man roster, if you've got a starting lineup like that, plus you've got Christie and Vanderbilt and your 2 draft picks, that's a 9-man roster right there. And you can focus your draft picks on guys who can help. I'm sure we can get a backup center with a 47th pick.
I would look. I mean, well, so that's a whole other discussion we'll get into maybe at the end of the show here. So I'm just going to go.
So, it's funny. You do have to make a lot of smart decisions. And Kyrie would have to take something like $35 million instead of 47. And yeah, that's a big leap for a guy like Kyrie, I'm sure.
And
he has to be traded just because they wouldn't give him 4 years,
The Mavs aren't going to. I think the Mavs are going to play hardball.
10 to 15% chance is what Jovan Buha predicted, that Kyrie would go to the Lakers, and I think that's about right.
Yeah, I closer to 10, if maybe not a shade under 10 in my.
Oh no, come on, 11. Give me 11 at least.
I'm not giving you 11. I'm giving you 10 at most. So, and then this is sort of, I'm going through one of Tom's articles. Mine look a little bit different. Mine always have a fun musical accompaniment that I would encourage you to play while you read.
What Jamie does is he recaps the 5 important things that happen in every single Lakers game or Laker decision or NBA situation like that.
Exactly.
And it's always a quick, fast recap that it's almost impossible not to agree with almost all of the points, except when he gets negative, And, the nice part about it is that from the trade deadline on,
there we go.
After 2 years of being totally contrary to each other, Jamie and I were like in perfect sync. We were running down and rolling through the playoffs till we hit Denver.
And then it was it's funny because I like Joe had my Laker goggles on. I was like, we got this. And then after game 1, I was like, maybe I should have stuck with my original pick, which was Denver to win it all. But that's all right. Anyway, so then just again, this is a hypothetical trade that Tom has. This is not breaking news or anything like that. We can't even make this trade at this point in time. But what you're looking at though here is for example, not only do I try to support the ideas that I have by putting down in numbers exactly how I calculated that we could make that trade, that it would fit into the rules. But here's also a projected
depth chart for who's going to play what positions,
like the roles and again, this,
the whole point is that I don't, for example, I put out a lot of trades that are contradictory to other trades that I propose.
No, that's Tom's an equal opportunity tradesmith.
Yeah. So the whole point is that this is a possibility,
right?
You could think of it. There are, and then you could take that possibility, and there are 100 variations of adding people and taking people off and bringing in other teams and so forth. So it's almost impossible to predict any of these trades. All we're really trying to do is to say, what are people going to be thinking about? What does this team? Why would this team make the trade? And usually it comes down to a judgment of one of the big differences that Yamie and I have is I happen to think there's great value to the 2029 first round pick unprotected. I think that pick's worth 3 picks of any other time. I also happen to think that timing is this 17th pick that we've got right now.
Yes, that's different.
Could be a very valuable pick because there are so many 6'7", 6'8" to 6'9" wing players in this draft that we haven't seen. We see like 2 or 3 of them out of 30. There's like 10 of them in the first 15 players.
Yeah.
And so I know that, for example, that my hope now for Miles Turner is not the 29 pick. My hope is the 17th pick because they want to combine that with their 7th pick to get into the top 5. They've identified somebody in the top 5, a power forward or a wing forward that they want, and they're willing to trade up to that. And I'm hoping that our 15th pick might be the best opportunity that they have to do that. Our 17th pick might be the best opportunity to do that. Because that's the reason. I
think they're really trying to get up into the top 10, top 5 when they say move up, not move up like 4 spots. But
they said specifically top 5, and they're not going to get 1 or 2. 1, 2, or 3. It's really 4 or 5.
Well, I mean, they might be able to listen. Portland's shopping that 3 pick, man. Portland's shopping that 3 pick. So if you can entice Portland for
but they don't want a guard. They got guards. They don't want
Portland will. It would be
the 3rd pick.
No, they won't pick him. They'll trade the 3rd pick and salary filler for Turner.
Yeah, but they'd probably try to get the 4th pick or the 5th pick.
I mean, who knows? This is what's going to be fun.
Well, it depends on who they want.
Yeah, exactly. And what Indy is willing to take back. Because I feel like Indy made that deal for Turner right before the trade deadline, if I recall. It was about a week and a half, 2 weeks before. And that tells me that they want to see this work as is without trading Turner.
Well, they want to get 2 more years. They're hoping to get 2 more years out of Turner before they move him.
Or at least a year, or at least 2/3 of a year.
He's the 11th oldest player on the team right now. After the draft, he'll be the 12th oldest player.
And he's still under 30.
And their top 2 players as a 23 and a 20-year-old and another 20-year-old coming in.
No.
Yeah, he's 27.
Yeah.
He's still really young, but he's got miles.
Not many.
Listen, they would have given him a 4-year deal if they really were going to keep him. That's the truth of the matter. He's tradable. He's not part of the long-term plan. He's to sell tickets for the next couple of years, I think.
I agree that he is tradable. I don't think he's tradable for the trade that you've proposed at this time. That's all. I don't think they're going to move him.
You do that every year. You take all of my summer trades and move them to the trade deadline.
And they often don't happen at the trade deadline.
Modus operandi. We've identified that. It's already been published, and everybody.
I'm just saying. This is but now we're talking. But now we're putting it on video. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Well, I guess what I'm saying is that one of the things that's both funny and sometimes annoying about Laker fans, like let's take resident blogger DJ KB24. Dave will be like, give me Trey, Jimmy, and Giannis. And it's like, why
Dave would be dissatisfied if all 5 starters of the Lakers only had 4 of them make the All-Star team.
This is why people say like Laker fans are crazy. It's like, just give me all the All-Stars in the league and put them on my team. It's like, it will not work. It can't work. And so that's one of the reasons I would like for this to be both a lively debate, but also an informative series of videos.
No, I think it's important to understand
foundation of knowledge.
Why people, you have to have a certain level of education about the CBA.
Correct.
To talk intelligently about trades.
I agree. I
And
completely agree.
and there's always arguments. I mean, the minute I post something on Twitter, a trade on Twitter, the other team has immediately responded. Because
Sure.
if I proposed it, then immediately they hate it because they presume that the trade is totally in their favor or totally in the Lakers' favor. And well, frankly, I don't propose any trades that aren't in the Lakers' favor. And I come out and I say that it's not Clipper Tom or something that's making the trade. It's LakerTom.
It's LakerTom.
Figure it out. It's part of my name, man.
Yeah, exactly. I should have gone down to the comment section. I already stopped sharing the article. I want to go. Well, I can just go back. But I just love what Stan, the real HTJ, says. Man, I wish this is in relation to just Miles Turner. The real Stan, aka the real. Oh, I love Stan. He and I get along really great. We're both pessimists. We're both like, nah, nope, nope, can't happen. Stop dreaming. Stop the fantasy.
Well, you guys just keep one comment on in you have a packet and it's sitting there ready to go, and you just paste it. You just paste it. It's the same comment.
That's not true. I modulate my comment.
No, they'll never. That trade is crazy. It's like what did he say? He said, "I wish that guy would retire."
That's what is. Let me read it. It says, "Man, I wish this dude would just retire. Miles Turner will never be a Laker. Indy won't give him up for anything less than a king's ransom. They were doing pretty well until Halliburton got hurt. They got a plucky second round.
They finished 11th. They missed the playoffs.
That's what he says. They've got a plucky second round team there, which for Indy may as well be a championship contender."
Well, the funny part is the guy that you're making fun of as being an unrealistic homer, and my apologies to Dave for that, but Dave lives in Indy.
I know Dave lives in Indiana and has a great collection of celebrity photographs that he's taken over the years.
He has photos of himself and his son with every star who's ever gone to Indiana.
Yeah.
No, Dave's a great guy.
They're all good guys. Mongo, just to read a couple of comments, Mongo agrees with me. As always, fails to look at this from the other side. An easy web search told me all I needed to know about why the Pacers are highly unlikely to do this. Has a lot to do with them redoing his contract a few months ago and their plans going forward. I really, all caps, don't feel like doing this for the next 8 months. ... SMDH, which means, of course, shake my damn head.
Of course, they don't realize that doesn't make me post less. That makes me post more.
Yeah, I know they do. We all know that, Tom. That's not a secret. It's all in fun.
The minute I hear that, I immediately figure out I'm probably going to put 10 more posts on the same thing.
Let's see. How can we overpay for Paul George?
Well, let's talk about another trade that I think is an interesting possibility.
Well, okay. So before that, we'll do. Let's do the Brook Lopez.
Well, that's the one I was going to say.
Yeah. I just took it down. Let me bring the site back up. Let me just get that going right now. But while I do that, why don't you talk about your trade while I bring it up?
Well, here's the thing. One of the big benefits again of hard capping is that instead of just getting the $5 million taxpayer MLE, you now have a $12.2 million MLE, which you can split among one or more players. And you have a $4.4 million BAE, which you can split also between players. Now you can't combine the two of them to pay somebody more than $12.2 million, but you have an opportunity. And so all of a sudden you got a guy who's making $13 million a year on the Bucks, and the Bucks really need to get rid of salary. They're not going to bring Brook back. He's a free agent. He loves Darvin Ham. He wants to play with for Darvin Ham. We could, if we hard cap ourselves, offer him $12.2 million starting salary and a 3-year contract. He's 35 years old, was a finisher, won a top 3 finisher and defensive player of the year, knows Darvin Ham, would immediately be a starting center that would immediately make the Lakers defense and offense much more dangerous, and would, in my opinion, give us the perfect player to go up against and get by Jokic and the Denver Nuggets. he'd give us that another big body that we really could use there and an outside threat. He'd be the perfect fit. And we could do that and still be hard capped. We could still do that while we're hard capped.
Correct. So again, just to make sure people understand, there's a difference between the hard cap and the draconian, like second. It doesn't have a name yet, but it's going to be, like the devil's cap or something like that.
Yeah.
It's where almost all of your moves are taken away from you. All of your tools, rather, is a better way of phrasing this. All of your tools to acquire free agents are taken away from you, which is why I do think there is a provision, or they also kind of make it about drafting and keeping homegrown talent. If you draft well and keep your homegrown talent, like the Warriors have done, like it looks like OKC is plotting to do, you can just it can just keep going up. As long as you don't care about free agency for the most part, you can just keep on going. And so
that's what all of the old timers want. I mean, that's how I grew up. I grew up as a kid being able to memorize and name every player on every team.
That's what OKC with
teams then, and
OKC with their 27 first-round picks over the next 5 years is going to be an interesting case study.
Yeah,
will they draft and build a team internally, completely internally, completely eschewing?
I thought that they should have offered 10 picks for the first round. Get Wembanyama. How are you going to turn down 10 first-round picks for Wembanyama?
Because there's nobody coming down the pike like this guy. Anyway, so here's another example of Tom's roster. Should we trade for Brook Lopez? I give this a little bit more of a chance to happen than Miles Turner.
Where's Brook Lopez?
I mean, the problem is that you're getting older. Brook's got back issues. And so he's got, his availability comes into question on a team where all of your best players, LeBron and AD, are going to have availability issues going forward and have had availability issues.
I think everybody does. I mean, who doesn't?
Entire like a career. Very few. That's an excellent point.
I mean, this whole season has been a basket case of that.
Yeah, well, so to that, I wonder if one of the other stipulations in the CBA about, because if you want that all NBA, is that 65 minimum game threshold, and because a lot of that ties back to your contractual options as a player.
Yeah,
you don't make an all NBA team if you're not all defense or MVP or so on and so forth. Your earning power decreases significantly. And for some guys, that won't matter, right? They're never going to get into that 15, 20, 30, 40, $50 million contract range. They're just making a good living playing basketball, and more power to them. But for some players, that's a goal. That's a real goal that they need to like hit that 65 game benchmark. So, as an example,
other guys might prefer to play 45 games and
make less. Not worried about it.
It's like Ja Morant thing. Well, there's an argument for Ja Morant that, hey, I'd love to take off the first half of the season and then come back and be fresh going into the playoffs.
That's the least of his problems.
I think they should suspend him for the entire year.
I don't know if he'll get that much. That's Ron Artest going into the stands and fighting everybody on national TV, like live on national TV. They suspended Ron a whole season for that. I don't think what Ja did is quite that bad. I think it'll be.
I would do it for his own good.
Well, that's a different conversation. That I kind of agree with. But I also think Ben Simmons should retire for his own good. And
I'd like to trade for Ben Simmons.
No, don't.
He's on my mystery trade list. Guys that, you could really make a hit with it. I mean.
No, you cannot.
Listen, listen to this argument.
I want to see you drive a wiffle. I want to see you.
Like to trade for D'Angelo Russell.
Oh God.
We trade point guards. What team out there would like to trade point guards with the Lakers? You give me one team.
We're starting the season with D'Angelo Russell on the roster. Look, Ben Simmons is a wiffle.
You saw what Buha said about what the Lakers want to do with D'Lo.
Yeah.
The first option is to sign and trade him. Their second option is to waive him. Their third option is to re-sign him.
I think that's just him. I don't think he's got a source that's saying that. I think that's just him.
No, I think that I think what Jovan does is he puts together in his mind all of the information that he hears from all of the insiders that he deals with every day, and
Sure.
gives you his opinion. 10
Sure.
to 15% shot for Kyrie.
Yeah.
And he's for example, I think that he's one who really started me on this whole. Started me looking really closely at the hard cap situation. Scroll up a little on that article to see what the lineup with Brook Lopez would look like. You go, there. Okay, so there's so in that case, I have Russell staying for $20 million. So you got Russell, Reeves, James, and Davis, and Lopez as your starting lineup. Christie, Walker, Livingston, Rui, and Derek Lively. That's Vanderbilt, 3. That's a pretty good lineup,
in rotation, I'd swap Vanderbilt and Lively. I think Lively will spend a lot of time in the G League. But
I'm sure that's true too. Yeah.
But sure, that works. Honestly, I see. I mean, the only reason I put this trade again into more likely to happen towards the trading deadline is because of Giannis. I think Giannis. Well, I take that back. A lot's going to depend on what Chris Middleton does. If Chris Middleton moves on, that signals basically a rebuild, right? And
how do you rebuild when you won last year?
How do you fire your coach?
I guess he asked the Lakers and the Bucks the same damn question.
Yeah, what is your methodology here? I don't see.
You got Giannis and you're rebuilding.
You're right. What are you doing? So I feel like if they don't pony up a big contract for Middleton and he goes somewhere else, wherever that is, it doesn't matter. It won't be to the Lakers. Likely, it could be a sign and trade with some guys from Dallas, and Dallas goes all in.
Bucks?
Huh?
Who's coaching the Bucks now?
I want to say Adrian Young, one of the assistants from it's an internal hire. They just promoted a guy from inside the coaching staff, I believe.
I thought he was an assistant coach with another team. Adrian.
I think it's Adrian Young.
Hold on.
I'm 92% sure on that, but I could be wrong. I think that the Chris Middleton situation will determine everything that has to do with Milwaukee. And
Adrian Griffin.
Griffin. We were both wrong. That's fun.
Yeah, he was
from the Bucks or not?
No, he wasn't from the Bucks. He was the Raptors assistant.
Okay. Well, that's good. So that's where Giannis, because the Raptors are kind of the international team du jour, and so that's probably why Giannis is all in on that. Look, I think that if Middleton walks, then there's a much higher likelihood that they go younger, that they see what they can get for Brook, who also is an unrestricted free agent. Brook Lopez can choose his destination. So it's really in some ways even not up to Milwaukee. Both players can just walk away.
Yeah, there's another interesting person there too, who also, just like Lopez, brought up the subject that they'd love to play for Darvin Ham, and that's Bobby Portis. I wouldn't mind having him either. He's another guy who falls in that range where he's making $11 million now and a $12.2 million.
I mean, I will say this. Do you think let me say this about Chris Middleton. I forgot this about Chris. He's got a $40.3 million player option, which I don't see another team.
He's going to take that option.
He's going to take that option, right? And he's going to stay.
You don't turn down $43 million. You turn down $5 million when you think you can get 10, or
And
you
Bobby
Portis 45 to 43 to get 30.
Bobby Portis ain't going anywhere. He's under contract for 3 more.
I don't think anybody can offer more than $25 million at this point in time of the teams that have cap space.
Yeah, and most of those aren't in a position to win a championship.
Right.
And you wouldn't, and therefore wouldn't need Chris Middleton or really Brook Lopez. Bobby Portis ain't going anywhere. He's under contract for a very reasonable 11.7, 12.5 the following season, and then a player option for 13.4. So the only year you're going to get a trade for Bobby Portis might be 24-25 if the Bucks are looking at Giannis somehow declining. If he gives off waves that he's going to decline his his $51,935 player extension. His coming up on some big money there in the NBA.
That's
23-24, they're bringing the core back. I think they go for it one more season. I think they'll do. I think Brooke will sign a 1-1 with Milwaukee because they can go over the cap to keep him, and he's familiar with everybody, and they'll see what this coach can do. And that's basically going to be the window. At that point, Middleton's a free agent. Giannis only has 1 more year guaranteed. And a lot of the guys, if you go on there, I'm on another page, I'm on the Hoops Hype. The team basically is blown up after that. No more Grayson Allen.
The only problem I have with that is that the Bucks, all of the teams at the top, including the Lakers, any of the teams who paid luxury taxes this year, are all got serious potential problems if they've got veteran lineups. Now our problems are such that Pelinka did a great job in having a lot of flexibility because we got options on a couple of guys and we've got ways to bringing back our restricted. So we're pretty protected. But the Bucks basically are going to have to get rid of salary.
They're not. They're sitting at 158 mil right now.
Right.
So they could sign Brook Lopez and go just up to that. They could sign him for 20 mil and still be under that.
They got DiVincenzo also that they got to deal with.
That's the Warriors. You're talking Joe Ingles and Jay Crowder.
Oh wait, yeah, you're right.
Those guys are all walking. Wesley Matthews gone. They'll keep Giannis's brother to keep him. Have a buddy.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's a small market team. We'll see what happens.
No, but I mean, all of their guys who didn't play in the playoffs. Sandro, Mamus.
I think we should talk to Disney and see what we can. Here's the other thing. If he lives in Los Angeles, Brooke can go to Disneyland every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think if the Lakers throw more money than we want, I don't think he's coming here for 12-2. Let me put it that way.
Well, that's the most we can do.
I understand that, and that's
unless we wait a minute, unless we sign and traded for him.
Yeah, that would require Milwaukee.
That would require us to take. How about Bo Mamba's contract? They can all of a sudden, maybe we could sign and trade Bo Mamba for $7 million instead of Brooks 13 million.
Well, look, these are all possible scenarios. I'm just going to go with the let's do this now. I'm just going to go with the straight up. I don't see us trading for either. I mean, a sign and trade for Brook Lopez, I think, takes us a step back because you still haven't gotten what you really need.
There's no difference from it. If you give him, you basically take a player that you aren't committed to, and you guarantee his salary or you guarantee his team option, and you send him over for him. It's the same as signing him as a free agent. It's the same as signing him to the 12.2, but you might be able to give him 13 to 15.
But I think we can get a serviceable player that does the same thing for cheaper. I think there are several options in free agents.
We're talking about the starting center spot, not the backup center.
I understand that. I think if you went out and tried to get
starting center, then who are you talking?
I think we should go hard after Xavier Tillman. I thought he played great in the playoffs. I thought Tillman played.
No, I don't disagree with you there that Tillman is a guy that.
And he's
the other guy I like too is Trey Lyles that I thought was somebody that. I'd love to go after Trey Lyles with the BAE.
I don't know. Is he a free agent this year? That I don't know.
Clutch free agent. He's a clutch free agent.
Oh, then that makes it more likely that it happens. I would go. So if we take some of these numbers,
well, Tillman makes around 8 or 9 million, I think. So he could be
I think he's Oh, let's go. Let me go to Memphis. Hold on here. Let's actually go on this tab.
Say hi to the king while you're there.
This roster salary. I mean, this is the other thing, right? Is what is I'm gonna be let's do this. So I like to go to Hoops Hype. There are other more detailed websites. Spot Rack is a pretty good website. That breaks down not just what the money is, but the qualifying offers, the cap holds, things like that. One of the things that's going to be an issue for the Lakers when summer hits is Rui Hachimura's cap hold is quite significant. I think it's up to 18 million. So he's going to be one of the first people we want to deal with and we're going to want to deal with him before somebody puts the pressure on Reeves to sign a deal elsewhere.
Yeah. Now the two guys that they're going to sign probably immediately are going to be those two.
So depending on what happens with Ja Morant this year, depending on what punishment the NBA hands down, which depending on who you listen to could either be, sounds like it could be Ron Artestian or something a little.
Probably half a year.
I'm thinking half a season. I'm thinking it's going to be a half a season, along with mandatory yada yada.
But they got a point guard who can handle. They got a point guard who can handle it.
Exactly. So, and they've got guys who are good, who are coming back, who are going to help them. So, and they're bringing back the whole team. The whole team is under contract. What I like about that is that now you actually do open the door for a sign and trade that doesn't hard cap the Lakers. If you say, all right, let's sign and trade D'Angelo Russell for Steven Adams, 17 mil, and, take your pick. You can go. Xavier Tillman made $1.7 million this year.
Who's our point guard then?
Who's our point guard? That's going to be Reeves.
He's a shooting guard, really.
He's a combo guard. So is D'Lo.
Everybody's a combo guard.
Everybody's a combo guard.
That's the big problem I have with that.
Yes.
You've got to get a real quality pointing. You have to have a quality point guard.
You've got a quality point guard in Reeves.
He can't be the starter, and neither.
Listen, do you consider D'Angelo Russell to be a quality point guard? I just watched him duke it up in the entire playoffs, except for 4 games.
Wouldn't have made it even to the finals.
4 games he played well out of 12. That's
but those 4 games were critical in winning 2 series.
And then he couldn't even wake up to get.
I know. But you don't.
You know who did show up? Austin Reeves.
Yeah.
I'm going with Reeves. So you can.
We need more. We need more of a playmaker and score. Listen, that's our problem. Our problem is that every time we go out, regardless of whom we start at guard, we lose points to the other team dramatically. So we get outscored by their guards every game.
You could make a case for trading just Malik Beasley for Steven Adams and the team option that is Xavier Tillman.
I'm not going to start a guy who can't shoot. Not with LeBron and AD. No way. You can't start a center who can't shoot.
Yes, you can. And you
can't.
And you probably will.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can. How much do you want to bet?
No, you can't. You got three non-shooters in a lineup, man.
Hey, you and I started the show off talking about how instrumental not shooting Dwight Howard was in shutting down Nikola Jokic.
That's as a backup center coming off of the bench.
In a play, no, he started.
He was at that point in time.
He started against Denver. Go back.
He started. That's the only team he would have started against, other than maybe Philadelphia.
What more do you want?
He's going to then. Center? You're not going to start him in the rest of the games. You want a backup center who you can bring in to do that. Get Jacob Poeltl then. He's perfect for that situation because he's only making $9-10 million. You can make him a backup center.
I'm saying this with the idea.
You can't do that with Tillman or.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can, and I'll tell you why. Because these are guys who are expert screeners. You can run a pick and roll with AD and Steven Adams that gets AD free for. This is what I think. I think moving AD to the 5, though effective and probably his quote unquote best position, has sapped him of his energy. And that's why his 3-point shooting since moving to the 5 is down significantly. Every season since we've moved him to the 5, his 3-point shooting has been in the toilet. And that is one of the things that makes AD unique. And if you take that away, you are then putting a lot of pressure on him being fully engaged in every single game, which
and
we know is
a lot of pressure on surrounding him with shooters
that make shots. Which, forget it. It doesn't happen in LA. Malik Beasley, no. Wesley Matthews, no. Reggie Bullock, no. I forget his name. Who's
just got the wrong guys?
How many guys are we going to go through?
Well, that doesn't matter. You keep choosing the wrong guys. You choose the wrong guys and a coach that does. You don't have a coach that wants to coach
Fantastic. So let's go back to my scenario of signing and trading guys from Memphis. You could get Luke Kennard and Steven Adams for Mo Bamba and Malik Beasley.
I don't think that.
You could push them to include Xavier Tillman with like a couple 7th-round draft picks. Because he's got a team option.
I wouldn't mind getting a player like Tillman as our backup center.
Well, you're going to have to trade him because Memphis is certainly going to pick up his $1.9 million team option if you don't offer them something. He's not a free agent next season.
Right.
Memphis has the option on his contract for next season. So that being the case, you're going to have to give them something.
So okay, I could take Tillman. Okay, who else do you want on that team?
I would do either Steven Adams or Luke Kennard. Basically, you're swap. If you do Beasley for Tillman and Kennard, you're saying, all right, here's a slightly more expensive player for your backup center and a shooting guard you didn't barely play in the playoffs.
No, I could do that. I could do that trade.
I would do that trade too.
I could
because
do that trade.
You're getting Memphis out of the team option they'd have to make on Kennard's contract, and you're not going to have to deal with once Xavier Tillman plays his way into.
I think that's a doable trade. I don't think. That's a different trade. See, that's a different trade to me than Brook Lopez trade is a trade for a starter. This and basically, I think the 4 most important positions that the Lakers really need right this moment. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people will differ from me because I happen to think the 2 most important positions are point guard and center.
I agree.
I think we need a starting center and a starting point guard, and I think we need a backup center and a backup point guard.
I think we have a starting point guard in Reeves. I think you can start Reeves, and it would be enough as long as you had somebody like Kennard next to him who's just going to shoot. And even if it means keeping Beasley.
Yeah, I worry about Kennard's not a starter. He's great off of the bench where you can make sure that you don't get killed by him. But if he starts, he's going to get hunted every day.
Sure. Well, not in the regular season. Not so much in the regular season.
Yes, he will.
Well,
if you just look at the lineup.
No, I know. And he basically became unplayable on both the Clippers and Memphis.
Yeah.
But so did Malik Beasley.
Right. No, Malik that's a whole separate. There's a whole separate.
And so did Wade Ellington.
Backup center is a whole separate group. But what I can't accept is you can't put a guy like Steven Adams in the starting lineup of the Lakers.
I disagree because we had the best record in the Western Conference with a player like that. We played.
Yeah, but AD by the time we got to the playoffs, except for against Jokic, AD played center.
That's fine. Now you're talking about
and both of the centers played so poorly. Other than that they really weren't. McGee had such a horrible second half of the season in playoffs. It's amazing that he's rebounded and actually had a good year this year because he sucked that entire time.
He sucked from a statistical point of view, but I think you're underselling.
No, I agree. I agree that having a body to bang made a difference. But he wasn't even getting minutes. He wasn't getting minutes in the second half of the season.
More than that, you have a guy in the locker room who's been ridiculed, openly ridiculed on national TV and risen above it.
Yeah, but you want
to let's have a moment. You want to have a fun debate. Do you know who I think is a better player? JaVale McGee over Ben Simmons every single day for his both entire careers for forever. Why? Because Ben Simmons can't take criticism. People critique Ben Simmons and he goes, "Well, nobody likes me." JaVale McGee takes criticism and it fuels his game.
The problem with Ben Simmons is he's got to get to the end of his contract and nobody's going to trade for him at that price.
When he doesn't play for the Australian national team this summer.
No, right, but here's the thing about Howard. Howard wanted to come back and the team didn't want him back.
Yeah. Well, that's not true either.
There's something about I've always liked, probably because I was that kind of player that was very edgy, always talking, always getting into fights, always getting into situations. That was me because you had to be, because I was small. If you're small, then if you're small, you've got to make up for it by just being, a total pest.
Sure.
And the guys like that have that edge that we have on the team were Russell Westbrook. Dennis Schroeder to a certain extent, and Patrick Beverley. I can do with a little less of that.
Sure.
You know,
I thought that
that's why we didn't bring Dwight back, because he was a little bit of a wild rocket at the end there.
Well, we actually did offer him a deal, and he took 15 minutes to decide, and they were like, "Oh, well, then we're going to move on."
Well,
and one of the great
there are different interpretations of that. What I heard was different. My understanding was Dwight said, "Yeah, I'm going to stay," but he never got the offer. There was never an offer made for him to stay.
I don't know if I trust Rob's interpretation of history. Rob Pelinka's. I listen. I give him kudos for unsinking the Titanic that he sunk himself. But I consider Rob Pelinka to be a B- GM.
He gave a master class at the trade deadline. He did. Those trades at the trade deadline totally transformed the Lakers.
No, he unsunk the Titanic. That's all he did. He unsunk the Titanic, which I'm not trying to take away from that accomplishment. But when you're the one who sunk the Titanic, blamed the coach and threw him under the bus, and then doubled down on it the next season, only to watch the team sputter and suck for 3 months.
It's probably Jeannie who killed the.
But that's why
that Pacers trade at the start of the year.
Bob Myers is a GM that understands how to talk to ownership and get them to expend more money. Rob Pelinka is not.
Well, there's a big difference in the ownership between the two teams.
He's a
having a family whose income comes from the club versus
he's a master
billionaire owner who the club is just an investment.
He's a master class patsy and yes man guy. He is not a master class GM. Anyway, well, I do. He unsunk the Titanic. That's a
backhand slap in the face.
When you're the one who sunk the Titanic, what do you expect? You can't dismiss the one and just see it the other.
Or it could be that a general manager understood that, boy, I made a mistake by allowing the influence of the star players to make a trade that I shouldn't have made, and I should have vetoed that trade, and I should have taken a stronger position. And then at the start of the year, he definitely didn't want to get any deeper water, so he wasn't strong enough to tell Jeannie, "Forget it, we're going to make this trade. This is the trade that will help the team." And instead, he stuck through the whole thing. And to be honest, I think that you'd have to.
You mean when he wanted everybody to agree? And he
when he wanted everybody
to call himself.
I thought that was again a second cop out of what your job is.
That's why I call him a patsy and a yes man, because he couldn't.
But let's say that
these are the things that happen
during this whole process. He did a couple of things which were pretty different that showed me that a guy was learning and from his mistakes. The first was when he hired Darwin Ham. He looked back at everything that he went wrong with the hiring of Frank Vogel. And he basically gave him power that Vogel didn't have. He made sure that we weren't going to see guys from the front office coming down. He made sure he could pick his own squad, his own team, and wouldn't be interfered by the front office. Yeah, that's a big change in how you treat your coach. And then I think when he made these deals, he did a terrific job, not only in bringing the right players into the team, but in making sure that they had a flexible versatility so that it really set them up perfectly for this summer to be able to go in almost any direction they wanted to go, whether it's cap space or whether it's hard capping, whether it's trading, whether it's bringing everybody back.
I'm not going to disagree with any of that. What I'm saying is that I take that small thing.
Am I confident that he'll make the right decisions this summer more than I was before the trade deadline? But no, he could.
I don't know.
I want to get Turner. If you have a chance to get Turner, that's the key to me. That's a championship and a dynasty to me.
I don't think there will be a chance to get Turner on the Indy side until the trading deadline, but unless you vastly overpay. which I don't recommend the Lakers doing because we just don't have a lot to work with for the next 7 years.
There's a fallacy that we don't have our draft picks because we do. We only have one pick left to give out, and we have all the rest of the picks. It's just that you're yeah. No, it's true. It's true.
Some of them you got to make the pick on draft day before you trade it. But yes, I mean, in a way, but you just can't throw them all into mid-season trades is the point.
But which brings us to what should be really the conclusion of the show. The one subject we haven't talked about, which is in 2 years, what is the best transition that you can make from LeBron James?
Because I don't know that you can say that.
We have a difference of opinion here because I know that your feeling is you want to hold on to the picks because you think those are going to be valuable weapons when you want to make a trade to bring in a player to replace LeBron. And my feeling is that we don't have enough picks and we have too many needs right now to count on getting a trade. Because if we trade for a player to replace LeBron, it's going to just basically
decimate the roster.
Back in that same situation as we were before.
No, I think you have to do it.
Let me finish. So I think the point is that you want to build a strong team and count on free agency and count on the fact that when LeBron's contract comes off, if you've kept a good, clean set of books, you can go out and replace that exact $50 million with a free agent. And with 2 years for players to get ready to become free agents at that period of time when they know that LeBron James is leaving. I think that is the single most logical, most easily accomplished pathway to replace LeBron James with another superstar.
I mean, I think the theory of that is true. I don't know what player that would be. I would have to go and look at when salary. I mean, as an example, Giannis is a free agent in 2 years. Right. But Giannis will be 32, 33 by then. Is that who you really want to replace LeBron? You would want somebody who's
we probably wouldn't hesitate if LeBron was available and wanted to come.
We brought LeBron here when he was 34.
Yeah. No, it's not a problem.
It's not a problem.
We'll do 1 or 2 championships. I'm not afraid of doing that.
No, but I think that.
I think that's the path that makes more sense because you build up all of this. You build up a team that is a team that has depth with 2 stars, and then the superstar is gone. The last thing you want to do is to give up that depth to get another superstar. You want to instead use that depth to lure another superstar to come.
I agree. That's what we did with LeBron. At the time that we brought LeBron here, we had a decent cap situation.
What we had was a bunch of young assets that we could have traded for the second.
We had young assets that were tradable.
We were ADable.
And we had a lot of first-round picks that we could throw in and pick swaps that we could throw in.
And we will again. We will again.
In 2 years, we will again.
You're right. We'll have a good set of picks.
But not if we keep including them every year. The one that we can trade every year that we can trade it.
If the right player comes along, that's a path that we would obviously take. I just think there's a greater chance, and we can come out with a better team if we do the free agency route rather than the trade route because we don't have to give up. We don't have to give up key players.
I don't think you can trade. That's why I think there's a fallacy in the NBA that you can trade for a superstar in the modern NBA that transforms you. I think Kevin Durant to Phoenix took away the one thing that made Phoenix great was their depth, their ability to match up against any team. And it's not just like, oh, in this round I have like an 8-man rotation and these are my 8 best guys. We're going to see it against Miami. Somebody's going to come. They're going to have to figure out somebody who can match up better off the bench. And the Lakers were brilliant at that in the year that we won in the bubble. Frank didn't go at the same.
Frank had a perfect season.
Frank pushed every button right in every series.
10 out of 10, man.
Howard on Jokic, brilliant. Starting Caruso in the closing game against Miami.
I thought that Ham did an 8 out of 10. I thought Ham was excellent too.
I thought he was pretty good. Yeah,
Frank was perfect. No, Frank was just like absolutely perfect.
I would have thrown Beasley
except for the first games. We blew.
I would have swapped Beasley and Schroeder at some point, and seen if a more aggressive shooter. One of my problems with Dennis in general is that he's a little bit he's a little bit passive when he's the point guard with
Well, I
better
hate
player.
that he turns his back on the floor. I can't stand that as a point guard, as a coach. That used to just drive
He
me.
makes there's a lot of things he does that
Guys will be open on the basket, and he's sitting here dribbling the ball out at the top of the key, looking the other way.
He misses reads on cuts. He takes meaningless forays into the paint and under the rim, and then tries to do that. I'm going to sneak my quick step spin move on you that everybody knows is coming. There's a lot of problems I have with Dennis Schroeder, but I think he's a fine backup point guard.
No, he's an excellent.
But against Denver, I would have.
There's a reason to consider using all or a good part of the $12.2 million on the backup point guard if you can solve the starting point guard problem.
Well, I'm telling you, it's going to be Reeves. We can end that discussion now. If you're forking out up to $20 million in 3 years, you're going to groom Reeves to be your point guard of the future because he has all of the tools to do it. He has decent size. He makes good reads. He can shoot and he can defend.
You think somebody's going to give him $100 million?
I think San Antonio is going to give him $100 million. If for no other reason than just to F with us.
Fuck the Lakers.
Yeah. Well, now Gerald's going to have to fix that in post-production, Tom. Thanks a lot. Gerald, just so you know, at the 1 minute 15 to 49 second, Tom starts swearing all over the place. No, I'm just kidding. I definitely think there's more than a few teams that would be willing to take Reeves on and have the money and
I don't know. The Lakers are gonna match it, and then the whole thing gets screwed around because then you shift everything around because of the arenas provision and it's all of a sudden.
Yeah, but that problem is still 2 years out when LeBron comes off the books.
Right. Yeah.
No matter what, that's the thing.
Yeah, I just think that the Lakers' priority for the last 2 years in the moves that they have made, including Westbrook and including Russell, has been to get a point guard to take the primary responsibility for playmaking off of LeBron.
Sure, I agree. I agree that's
and I don't think they're gonna. And I think they see that as even more serious now because of the injury that LeBron went through and his lack of ability to. We don't know what it's going to be. We don't know how much was the foot and how much was father time. We'll find out next year.
I'm pretty sure it was a little about equal parts.
I'm sure there's a little bit of both.
Yeah, I would say it's a recipe of both.
He'll be better next year, but I don't know whether he'll be as good as he was before.
I don't know that we're going to see as motivated a LeBron as we saw before he broke the scoring record. I think that LeBron James went away the minute he passed Kareem.
I don't.
Did you see him play?
I think he still has the same desire. He'll still look at the way he gutted himself through in that first half of that game 4. The way he gutted it through and scored those points in that, he still doesn't like to lose. If there's a reason he'll quit, it's because of losing. It's not because of anything else.
I think he, like Jimmy Butler, is completely and utterly bored with the regular season.
Yeah, well.
It's as simple as that.
Well, at least it's becoming. We know with all of the injuries, it's becoming like baseball, man. I mean, Christ, you play 162 games to play a 3-game series and you're out. I mean, it's just crazy.
Wow, that's sports, though, right?
Where's the value relationship between your effort in the regular season?
It's not about that. It's about entertainment at that point.
It is, and it's like two different things. This one's to sell 162 games worth of tickets.
Yeah,
and this one is for fun.
Yeah. So I will say this. In conclusion, we talked about 2 LakerTom trades, both of which I think have a more likely chance of going through closer to the trade deadline than this summer. Of the 2, I think personally, this is just my opinion, and feel free to weigh in. I haven't really been paying attention to the chat. I'm not doing the whole Gerald thing. I got to figure out next time. I'll put the chats in the little thing down there. So if you didn't see your comment or your chat, it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I've only got so much bandwidth. I've only got so much bandwidth, people. All right, there's only so much I can do, and if you can't deal with it, then I don't really, frankly, care much. It's just that's how life is. So I'll get better at this or not. We'll see. But my recommendation is to go if you're going to sign and trade anybody. If you're going to pick up the options on Rui, if you're going to pick up the options on Mo or Malik. I think you have to look at players under contract who are also going to phase out in the next year or two. Try to bring back guys like that. Don't try to do a sign and trade where you're bringing back. I think if you're going to hard cap, you got to do it with players that still have a modular contract, because you can get back under the contract. You can get back under the hard cap if you do it right. If you play the system right, you can get back under the hard cap before the trade deadline and regain some flexibility. So it's going to be really interesting to see A, the minutia of the CBA, B, what moves the Lakers make leading up to draft day, and then see how we kick off free agency a couple weeks after that. So
draft day is going to be the interesting one, because I think there's big questions there, because the big questions are, what does the Lakers do with the 15th pick? There's talk that they might want to move it back. Maybe they could move it back for a couple of picks.
17th.
Maybe they could move it back. Maybe they could trade it to somebody else looking to move up, or they could use it. Depends who's
I wouldn't be surprised. All of those scenarios are in play. I think they're going to use it. I think they're going to try. I think they're going to try to find some, cheap talent to augment the team, like they did with Reeves. Like I think they're hoping to do with Christie next season, which is Max Christie and his summer league.
Christie has Reeves-like potential. He
does have Reeves-like potential, and Max Christie in his summer league may hold the fate of Lonnie Walker IV's relationship with the team going forward. Because if they look at Christie and see,
if Lonnie looks at Christie and says, "Oh, there go my minutes,"
there goes my minutes. Or if the Lakers say, "Oh, well, we got this guy under contract for a fraction of what that guy is going to cost. We're going with the cheaper guy." So
and he's younger.
And he's younger, and
we only put him on a 2-year deal, which was stupid.
Well, this is. I'm sorry. Was that a master class then? Was that a master class in GMing? Is that what you're trying to say there?
Listen, all that says is that guys who can give you a master class can also give you a master destruction class, which he did the previous time. So
it's all.
I take it. As far as I'm concerned, I'm more concerned with the latest decisions that the team's general manager has made, and that gives me more hope that he can pull off something similar in the trade that he did in the trade deadline this summer.
I'll say that I'm happy to see he's learning, and we'll see.
He is learning. I do think he has learned a lot.
I do too,
and I think that hopefully he won't make mistakes.
And he's gonna be in the same boat as every other GM. They're all gonna have to get the CBA, see what they can do, make some moves, and see how it pans out. Because as we'll get into next year more. Once we kind of see, the BRI is what determines all of this, right? Whatever the number is that you go up to or over or whatever is all determined by BRI. And if that goes up a lot, then that benefits the whole league. It's not just one team or another.
The problem is that there's going to be a new TV contract. They have a smoothing thing in there where the cap can't go up more than 10%.
There's a lot of potential
so you might as well just figure that the cap for the next few years is just going to go up 10%. It does. BRI is not going to matter. Its cap's just going to go up based upon.
That's fair. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, no, some of those things aren't going to get smoothed. Player revenue counts for BRI. So
they're going to get more revenue now because of the additional things that are added to the player's share. Okay, and the TV contract is going to overwhelm that completely. Because last time, what did they get? They got like a $20 million jump last year. That one time it
was 2022, something like that. 20 million,
something like that. So that now they're to take the cap, you get like a $13 million jump from 134 to 147, and then a $14 million jump to 162. But what's going to happen is that all of these contracts that we think are so big right now, they're going to be peanuts compared to the next sets of contracts that come.
Somebody's going to sign an $80 million deal in the next 2 years.
Yeah,
per season. Per season, not for the.
It's like we were talking about when LeBron retires. It's going to be a $50 million.
Giannis in the last year of his deal is a $51 million player.
Jesus.
Player option for a $51 million deal.
I don't know how. 80 is probably too high. They probably will definitely hit 60.
I don't know. 10% every year is right. If 2 years from now, it's going to be right.
It's a nice compounded rate. I'd like to get that.
It's going to be right there. It might not be the first year of the deal. It might be, and in the last year he gets 80 million. But it's coming. It's coming.
Well, can we get some of that money, Jane? Come on, just a little bit of it.
I'm sure Gerald
Well,
Glassford.
come on, open up the checkbook.
Listen, anybody who wants to invest in Lakers Fast Break or Lakerholics.com, feel free to reach out to Laker Tom or Gerald Glassford. Gerald Glassford can be reached at Lakers Fast Break at yahoo.com. Tom can be reached at Twitter at LakerTom at Twitter, yada, yada, yada. You can find me either here and you can yell at me through YouTube, or you can find me on Lakerholics.com and you can yell at me in print. Either way, I take on all comers and with equal fervor, and it's fun. I just think it's all fun. We're just talking about stuff. We all love the Lakers. So on that note, I'm Yamie Swoot. I'm happy to have my guest here, Laker Tom, today. We'll be here, I think, next Saturday talking about another trade or two. Maybe a little earlier because I got some family stuff I got to do in the afternoon, but we'll see. We'll figure out the timing and all that, and Gerald will throw it up on the sketch or not. And for Gerald Glassford, Joe Soro, Stone Hansen, John McCallion, check out all their sites. John McCallion YouTube, Stone Hansen for it's oh man, I was Upside NBA Upside or Upside. I forget. I'm sorry, Stone. I forget your YouTube channel. It's my bad. My bad. Right here. My bad. I'll get better at this. I'll have a 3x5 note card I can read from next time. But anyway, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the flip side. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye-bye.